Elizabeth Short was an aspiring Hollywood actress who moved to Los Angeles at the age of 22, where she worked as a waitress to support herself whilst waiting for her first break into show business. In January 1947, her life was cut tragically short at this young age. Reporters named her the Black Dahlia after a murder mystery film, The Blue Dahlia, and the clothes that she was wearing on the last night she was reported as being seen alive. Elizabeth Short's murder remains one of America's oldest and most profound unsolved homicide cases. Elizabeth Short was born in Hyde Park, Boston, the third of 5 daughters of Cleo and Phoebe May Short. She grew up in Medford, Massachusetts. Her father built miniature golf courses until the 1929 stock market crash, when he lost most of his money. One day in 1930, he parked his car on a bridge. As he disappeared and was not heard from for years, many believed that he had committed suicide by jumping off the bridge into the water. Phoebe Short moved her family into a small apartment in Medford and went to work as a bookkeeper to support them. It was not until she received a letter of apology from Cleo Short that the family learned that he was alive and living in California. In 1943, she reunited with her father, who she had not seen since she was 6. They both moved to Los Angeles, but she moved out after an argument and wound up in Florida. While in Florida, Short met Major Matthew Michael Gordon Jr., a decorated United States Army Air Force officer, then at the 2nd Air Commando Group. He was training for deployment to the China-Burma-India Theatre of Operations. She told friends that he had written to propose marriage while he was recovering from injuries from a plane crash in India. She accepted his offer, but Gordon died in a second crash on August 10, 1945, less than a week before Japan's surrender ended World War II. She returned to Los Angeles in July 1946 to visit Army Air Force Lieutenant Joseph Gordon Fickling, whom she knew from Florida. Fickling was stationed at the Naval Reserve Air Base in Long Beach. Short spent the last 6 months of her life in Southern California. What makes the Black Dahlia case so strange is the way in which her body was mutilated and completely drained of blood. The murderer even cleaned her body before posing her on the ground. On the morning of January 15, 1947, Elizabeth's naked and badly mutilated body was found in Leimert Park, Los Angeles, by local resident Betty Bersinger. Her body was cut in half, drained of blood, and her mouth was cut from ear to ear, as if the killer wanted her to have a permanent smile. Short had several cuts on her thigh and breasts, where entire portions of flesh had been sliced away. The lower half of her body was positioned a foot away from the upper, and her intestines had been tucked neatly beneath her buttocks. The corpse had been posed, with her hands over her head, her elbows bent at right angles and her legs spread apart. Some of the details surrounding the murder were kept from the public and media, such as the fact that she was force-fed feces before being killed. This was a gruesome murder and difficult to stomach or fathom, even for the most hardy police investigators. Detectives also found a cement sack nearby containing watery blood and a heel print on the ground amid some tyre tracks. An autopsy stated that Short was 5 feet 5 inches tall, weighed 115 pounds or 52 kilos, and had light blue eyes, brown hair and badly decayed teeth. There were ligature marks on her ankles, wrists and neck. The skull was not fractured, but Short had bruises on the front and right side of her scalp, with a small amount of bleeding in the subarachnoid space on the right side, which is consistent with blows to the head. The cause of death was determined to be hemorrhaging from the lacerations to her face and shock from blows on the head and face. Following Short's identification, reporters from the Los Angeles Examiner contacted her mother, Phoebe Short, and told her that her daughter had won a beauty contest. Only after prying as much personal information as they could from Phoebe did the reporters tell her that her daughter had been murdered. The newspaper offered to pay her airfare and accommodations if she would travel to Los Angeles to help with the police investigation. That was yet another ploy, since the newspaper kept her away from police and other reporters to protect its scoop. William Randolph Hearst's papers, the Los Angeles Herald-Express and the Los Angeles Examiner, later sensationalized the case. They described the black tailored suit that Short was last seen wearing as a tight skirt and a sheer blouse. They nicknamed Elizabeth Short as the Black Dahlia, describing her as an adventuress who prowled Hollywood Boulevard. On January 23, 1947, a person claiming to be the killer called the editor of the Los Angeles Examiner, expressing concern that news of the murder was tailing off and offering to mail items belonging to Short to the editor. The following day, a packet arrived at the Los Angeles newspaper containing Short's birth certificate, business cards, photographs, names written on pieces of paper, and an address book with the name Mark Hansen embossed on the cover. Hansen, an acquaintance at whose home she had stayed with friends, immediately became a suspect. One or more other persons wrote letters to the newspaper signing them the Black Dahlia Avenger. On January 25th, Short's handbag and one shoe were reported seen on top of a garbage can in an alley a short distance from Norton Avenue. They were finally located at the dump. Some crime story authors have speculated on a link between the Short murder and the Cleveland torso murders, which took place in Cleveland between 1934 and 1938. As part of their investigation into other murders that took place before and after the Short murder, the original LAPD investigators studied the Cleveland murders in 1947. They later discounted any relationship between the two cases, but in 1980, new evidence implicating a former Cleveland torso murder suspect, Jack Anderson Wilson, a.k.a. Arnold Smith, was investigated by Detective John P. St. John in relation to Short's murder. St. John claimed he was close to arresting Wilson for the murder of Short, but Wilson died in a fire on February 4, 1982. Around 60 people confessed to the murder of Short. 25 of these were considered viable suspects, and some of the original 25 were eliminated. There is another person who topped the LAPD's list of suspects during the actual investigation, a man by the name of George Hodel. His own son, Steve Hodel, is a veteran homicide detective with many years of service in the LAPD with an unfaltering reputation in his field. Upon his father's death, Steve was sorting through his belongings and discovered a cache of photos that belonged to his father, a few of them with an uncanny resemblance to the Black Dahlia. Crime scene photos showed that Short had been given a hemicorporectomy, a procedure that slices the body beneath the lumbar spine, the only spot where the body can be severed in half without breaking bone. It was taught in the 1930s when George had been in medical school. The letters sent to the press and police from the Black Dahlia Avenger, a man claiming to be Short's killer, also bore a chilling resemblance to his father's handwriting. Sadly, and in all probability, the true perpetrator has already died, meaning that they will never be brought to justice for this truly horrendous crime. So, do you think that Jack Wilson, who was a suspect in the Cleveland torso murders, was also responsible for killing Elizabeth? Or was it someone closer to home, someone who knew her intimately? Police say that more often than not, the victim knew the person who killed them. In all likelihood, we will never find out who murdered Elizabeth Short. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you're new to my channel, why not subscribe so you don't miss the next exciting episode of Strangeries. Thanks for watching.